What's going on, everybody? We are back with another episode of Finding Your Niche with Niche, actually the Miami edition. I'm super excited to have this guest on today. As you can see, Bashar Katou. If you don't know this man already, you need to. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I am like really, I say this with every guest, but for real, I'm really excited to talk to you and sit down and learn about what it is that you do and how you happen to find your niche in your specific industry, doing Amazon selling and making a lot of money doing so. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I really appreciate you having me on here.
Yeah, so you have a very interesting story, humble beginnings, and we'll kind of try to speed through some of it and get to the meat and potatoes so that people can really get something out of what you have to say today, because I know you have some really profound things to share. But so can you talk a little bit about kind of where you were from, being an immigrant and coming into America and making a name for yourself?
Sure. So it started back in 2006, which was about 3 years after the the invasion on Iraq. I mean, it was a hard time. It was pretty much war 24/7 in the streets. Cars blowing up, people's body remains on the streets. And that's when my father decided that it's time for us to get the hell out of Iraq. Because up until then, he was still optimistic that things are going to turn around. But unfortunately, it got worse. And so he sent us off. We came to America. I was 16 years old. I actually arrived to America on 06/06/06.
Whoa.
Yeah, that was kind of strange. I knew zero English. We didn't really have a whole lot of relatives here. We first went to Detroit, Michigan. We stayed there for 1 year, and then from there we moved to San Diego, California in 2007, and just a year and a half ago I actually moved to Miami. But when I first started, some of the very first struggles was needing to learn how to speak English, needing to mesh with a new culture that I've never, Iraq being in the complete eastern side of the world. Now I'm on one of the most developed Western worlds, and I needed to learn how that works. Start making new friends,
right.
And by the time I started making some friends in Detroit, my mom was like, "Well, now we got to go to California." So now coming to California, learning again, still learning English, still making my place in school, and I had this funny long hair, and I was like a skinny guy, and I used to get made fun of a lot in high school. So it wasn't the prettiest time, but I made through it. So.
And I want to kind of unpack that a little bit, because I think that's huge, what you just kind of said. Looking at what you've come from, seeing, people in different circumstances in the face of really insurmountable odds, and then coming here and pursuing the American dream. Can you kind of unpack that a little bit about seeing that, like coming from this certain level of poverty into like something totally different?
Yeah, so my father owned the second largest factory of clothing in Iraq. So in the 80s, early 90s, he was worth tens of millions of dollars. But in 91, there was a Gulf War in Iraq, and what happened was the Iraqi dinar used to be, 1 dinar used to equal $3. Overnight, it went to $1 equaling 1,200 dinars. Wow. So my dad literally went from a multimillionaire to completely broke. His businesses went out of business. So as I was growing up, looking from outside in, we looked wealthy because my dad had properties, we had a very nice home, but he didn't have a cash flowing business. So for the first 10, 12 years of my life, we were living like hand to mouth. He couldn't sell anything because nothing was worth anything anymore. And then he was too proud to just liquidate.
Yeah.
Any business he tried to do, he just kind of couldn't evolve really.
Yeah.
And so that was very difficult there. But then coming to the U.S. and wanting to kind of live the life here, I remember the very first day I woke up after we had made it to Detroit. It was me and my brother. My mother was already in America. I woke up in the morning and I could hear people speaking English. Okay. And it was so weird. It was as if I was in a movie, because we watched, American movies as we grew up.
Sure.
I looked over the bed outside the window, and I see it's like this from the most perfect setting.
Yeah.
It's this subdivision with houses, perfectly mowed lawn, There's a dad pushing his daughter on a bike.
Wow.
And I think it was a Sunday or something like that. I can't remember exactly. And that's when I realized that, holy shit, I'm in America.
Yeah.
You know? And I remember a few days later, my brother and I were like walking down the street, and we were still just taking everything in. It was just so overwhelming. And I stood in the middle of the street. It was like, I don't know where we were. I think we were at the supermarket called Myers or something in Detroit. And I stepped outside in the parking lot, and I looked up to the sky, and I went like this, and I said, freedom, you know? That was one of the first English words that I like knew how to say, you know? And it was the funniest thing. But I felt a sense of freedom. I felt now there were opportunities that I could actually do. Because in Iraq, you couldn't really think like that. You couldn't think 5, 10 years from now. You're thinking, you know, this militia that's fighting with the American troops, they're about to fire a missile out of my, you know, literally in front of my house. Is that missile going to fly this way, or is it going to fly back and fall into my, you know, my living room?
Wow.
So that was like the day-to-day. There's no electricity. Until now, my brother lives in Iraq. I talk to him sometimes.
Yeah.
The conversation is like, hey, bro, what's the electricity schedule now? It's like, well, it's 4 on, 2 off. It's a little better now, you know? So, like, that's what they're dealing with. And that's why sometimes when I talk with people that have, and even my culture, that you know, that they were born and raised here, I'm like, dude, you have it way easy. Like, you really need to appreciate what you have, because trust me, other parts of the world, that's not the kind of life they're living, you know?
Do you have any stories that you can kind of recollect of, like, maybe a near death, or where you actually realized that, like an encounter with the militia or anything to that nature?
Yeah, I mean, a couple things come to mind. One of them, this is like a little one, you know, nothing big deal. It was about 11 o'clock at night. It's me, my brother, his friends, and some of my friends outside of my house. 11 o'clock at night, there's no electricity, so all the guys are like outside playing dominoes and stuff like that, using like candles and little torches and stuff like that. And a random car pulls up.
Okay.
And there's like 7, 8 of us. You know, it's a big group of us. Random car pulls up. They roll down the window. 2 of them walk out with guns. Hey guys, we need your cell phones. Immediately they give us we give them our phones. They sit in the car and they bounce. And that's that. And that was like a normal day.
Wow.
Everyone went home like nothing happened. It's like, hey, we're glad no one of us got killed or something in the
All
process.
they wanted was the phones?
Just the phones, you know, just a small robbery. That's all it was.
Wow.
Just a holdup, you know. Another one, we were one day coming back from my dad's work, and we're at the traffic light. Everyone, just like how an ambulance, you know, now when you see it, you like go to the side.
Sure.
It was like a bunch of troops, you know. There was like a couple of tanks, literally tanks driving down the street like it's normal. A couple of tanks with a couple of Humvees and stuff like that. So everyone went to the side. They passed us. They probably went about a quarter mile, maybe less, and then a car just went off on the side of the road.
Gosh.
And you could see the car just flying like maybe 100, 200 feet in the air, and then slams on the ground. Had we gone after them, because we stopped, we waited for them. Had we gone after them, we could have probably been blown away by the explosion.
Wow. Okay, so you're in America. You're yelling out freedom in the middle of the street. I really am very interested in having a conversation around the business aspect of your family and the business dynamic, because your dad kind of was, and you can tell me for sure, but spearheaded the business endeavors for your family. Can you guys talk about, or can you talk about the mindset that he had early on and how that was a benefit to you and your family?
So one of the things that I believe inspired me was that I wanted to be like my father. That was the thing for me. You know, growing up, for me, he was, because he was pretty wealthy at the time, he was, he had a lot of power. He was a mover, he was a shaker, you know, and that inspired me, and I wanted to grow up and be like him. So as I grew up, I always wanted to be in business for myself. I always wanted to do something. I didn't know what it was. I just knew that, you know, I was destined for something big. I wasn't exactly sure what it was. And so we're 4 siblings. Really, I'm the only one that actually has a business. My sister is a lawyer.
Okay.
So my mom automatically wanted me to become a doctor when we came to America.
Sure.
She wanted a lawyer and a doctor in the house so that way she can talk and brag to her sisters and her friends, you know. And she sold me on the idea, actually. So the very first few years, because I actually was a pretty good student in school. Like I wasn't one of, like I was actually the complete opposite of a troublemaker and a bad boy in high school.
Okay.
You know? Now, I was a player, but I wasn't a bad boy. You know?
Player, not a player.
Yeah, so, but then, you know, as I was like coming out, like I graduated high school with a 3.4 GPA or something, like a 3.6.
Yeah.
And so I actually did pretty well. But then as I went to school, as my mom sold me on the idea that I need to become a doctor, once I got into that, I was like, wait a second, but that's not really what I want. I'm not passionate about this thing, you know? And I realized that I'm doing it for my mom more than I'm doing it for myself.
Yeah.
And I was troubled. Do I make my mom proud and kind of do what she wants, or do I do what I want? And unfortunately, I see a lot of people in that position, and they chose the I want to make my parents proud version,
yeah.
and then they come back 5-10 years later and say, fuck,
Right.
why did I do that? I want to go the other route, you know? And so luckily, I didn't make that, you know, I didn't make that mistake. And although up until like a year ago, 2 years ago, my mom was like, I know one day you will go to school and become a doctor, you know? Now she stopped saying it, but but yeah, definitely. I mean, my father definitely spearheaded the inspiration. Yeah.
And I want to ask you about that too, because the way that you just worded it right now is you said you wanted to make your father proud. Do you no longer have that endeavor in mind, or do you feel like you did make your father proud with where you are today?
Well, I think I've made everyone proud. Because at the end of the day, I think our parents want to see us happy and want to see us do good in life, right? Now, each one has a definition of what doing good in life is, right? Some people is just being a hippie and just living hand to mouth, but doing things that they enjoy, right? To some people, it's making billions of dollars. To some people, it's going to Mars, you know? Some people is being a doctor. Some people is living a life of service and giving back to other people. So at the end of the day, our parents only know what they know because they were raised a certain way. They were raised in a certain society. And society at that time was do this, go to school, get a degree, get a job, right? That's how they were raised. And so I don't like blame my mom because she wanted me to become a doctor, right? But then now she sees me happy. She sees that I'm making a difference in the world. She sees that I'm doing things that I'm passionate about. And so at the end of the day, that makes her happy.
Yeah. And for some people like your father, it is owning a pizza restaurant. And talking about that dynamic of going into business with family and what that actually costed you in the end.
Yeah. So in 2011, so after about 2008-9, my dad was actually able to liquidate some of his properties.
Okay.
Up until then, we were cash poor. He was now able to liquidate some of his properties because, again, we owned a couple houses, he owned a couple buildings, and like downtown Baghdad, like prime locations.
Okay.
So, you know, after he liquidated, he was probably worth a couple $1 million. And he brought some money to America. And he said, you know, let's start a business. And so we went and bought our first business in America in 2011. And we worked as a family. It was my dad, my mom, me, and my brother. First time in my life, I worked that many hours. It was like 83, 84 hours a week, working at a pizzeria in front of a pizza oven.
You're
not
early
the easiest
20s
thing.
at this point?
I was 21.
21,
Yeah, I
okay.
had just turned 21. Actually, I think I was 20, turning 21. And my dad was 70-something, my mom was 60-something. So they weren't young. And they're in there chopping tomatoes and onions in the morning, helping us prep, going shopping, all that stuff. And then my brother and I were running it, and then he brought one of his friends. I loved it because it was like a family, you know, we were all together, but I also hated it because I wanted to go 175 miles an hour, and my brother wanted to go like 23 miles an hour, you know? And then we butted heads a lot. He's older than me. Naturally, everything became under his name. The business became under his name. The account became under his name, all that stuff. So he naturally became the boss, and I just couldn't take that, you know? And I was like, dude, that's fine. Do whatever you want to do. Let's just like speed up the process. Because our plan was we're going to buy one place. We're going to buy like 3-4 other places, create like a common theme, and then start a franchise. Like that's what my dream was.
Okay.
And it was his idea to buy a pizzeria. And then he just didn't speed up the process though. He had his own ideas. You know, I don't want to make it sound like, you know, I had all the good ideas and he didn't. He had his own good ideas. They just didn't mesh with me, right?
And the speed that you wanted to do.
And the speed as well, right? And maybe looking back at it, maybe I was trying to go way too fast, because I also try to go way too fast, in other endeavors, and they exploded in my face. And sometimes like you gotta slow down to speed up, right? And so I'm not sure what the right answer is, really. I just know that it didn't work out, so I decided to do something else on my own. My dad came and said, hey, here's $200,000. This is your college fund. Do whatever you want to do with it. You can either go to school, become a doctor like your mom wants, or you can start your own business. And I said, fuck that, I'm starting my own business.
Instantly? So because I feel like when people just get all of a sudden $200,000 handed to them, that's what you're thinking? You are already business minded in that sense. You didn't think like, oh, I'm going to splurge it, or now I'm going to go do this and this and this with it. You decided I'm going to invest.
No, I want to start a business. I was 23 at the time, 22 at the time, and I wanted to do something big. And I knew I had a bunch of ideas, and I wanted to do something big. And again, it wasn't my money, so I couldn't just go and start, blowing it in places. It wasn't like, hey man, here's $200,000, go do whatever. No, it was like, go do something with your life, right? And I had an obligation. It wasn't just like, well, I'm probably gonna just vacation and retire for a year and then kind of figure out my thing. No, it was like, I'm obligated. I need to go get a quick ROI and make my dad proud. And especially because I had just told my mom that I dropped out of college.
Right.
And that was a big slap in her face.
Yeah.
And so I needed to make up for that, right? So I had no time to waste.
What was that conversation like, telling her?
Honestly, for 6 months, she didn't know. I was taking breaks out of the pizzeria to go to school.
Right.
But I was either, hanging out with friends
why did it take you 6 months to tell her?
I don't know. Not sure. I don't know. I just didn't have it in me,
Yeah.
And then it got to a point where I think it's like, look, this is just ridiculous. I just got to come out and tell her. And I remember when I told her, she almost knew, but it was also just like a blow to her face. And, she didn't take it very well, but it is what it is. We lived.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So you have this money. You decide to do what with it ultimately?
So I had 3 business ideas. I wanted to get into the hospitality industry. I also wanted to start because my dad had a clothing factory, so I wanted to do something in fashion. I even tried to get a degree in design or something like that, fashion design or something. I don't know what it was. And then I wanted to also, the third thing was I wanted to open a spa.
Oh.
I don't know why.
Wow.
Don't ask me.
Okay.
I wanted to combine girls and boys. Also do manicures, pedicures, massages, do this this spa cold place you go, you have drinks and all that stuff. For me, it was just everything has to be about fun. You gotta have a good time,
Yeah.
Even at the clothing place, I don't know what the spin was around having fun, but I knew I wanted to make it fun.
Something, yeah.
And the hospitality thing was look, I'm 21, 22, I'm partying all the time. If I can party at a place and make money,
right,
dude, this is it, So that's why I chose that first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. I want to fast forward a little bit to talk about 2 very important numbers that happened in your life. Okay, $150,000 in debt versus $42.99 in profit.
Yes.
Talk about those 2 numbers and what they mean to you.
Yeah. Wow, you've done your homework. Awesome. Yeah. So, 150,000. Fast forward 3 years. April 28th, 2015. It's 5 p.m. It was a Wednesday. No, it was a Tuesday. I'm leaving the restaurant to go pick up my girlfriend, who, by the way, now is my wife. This was 2014. I get a call. It's 5 p.m. That's San Diego, California. I get a call. Hey, boss, the kitchen is on fire. Okay, put it out. It's like, no, you don't understand. We're all outside. The fire department is here. It's like, okay. I text my girlfriend. I'm like, hey, I can't make it. I turn around, go back to the restaurant. 5, 6 fire engines outside. There's smoke coming out of the kitchen.
Oh my God.
I can't go inside. My landlord, Steve, shows up, which I had been late to pay rent for 3 or 4 months.
Okay.
It's like, well, business wasn't doing good. You needed a restart, fresh start.
Yeah.
Insurance usually is really good at this stuff. I'm like, no, Steve, you don't understand. It's like, what? I'm like, I haven't paid insurance in 4 months. He's like to me, what? It's like, I haven't paid insurance in 4 months. And you could see his face just light up.
Yeah.
And I mean, the guy was about to strangle me because he's like, this dumbass kid came and rented a place from me. He hasn't been really on time with rent since he started. The last 4 months he hasn't paid rent. And now, this thing, and because to him it's like, well, my building is burned. Who the hell is going to fix it? Like, screw this guy. What's going to happen here? You know? So I owed the IRS about $40-some thousand in backup taxes. I had a bunch of things. The business, 6 months into that business, and this was what I did with that $200,000. 6 months into it, I knew that I didn't know what the hell I was doing. But I was too proud to ask people for advice. Anyone that provided me advice or tried to, I told them to get the fuck out of my place. That's one bad thing that I took.
That was a nice way?
Yeah, absolutely. This was one bad thing that I took from my dad. He had a big ego, and I took that from him. Fortunately, I was able to dismantle that after that experience. But that's where the $150K came from. After all said and done, Steve ended up suing me for the remaining of was a 5-year lease. I was about 2.5, 3 years into it. So whatever was left, it was like $5K a month or something like that, times 24 months.
Yeah.
So he sued me for that. And so I came out of the whole, drama with about $150,000 in debt.
Wow.
2 repos on my credit. I couldn't even get a credit card, 0 money in the bank, nothing. And after the $200K, not only did I lose the $200K, but everything that I had invested after all went in. I used to work 120 hours a week, never made a penny out of that place.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Did they ever figure out what started the fire?
So yes, 2 months prior to that, my brother decided to shut down the pizzeria because he wanted to get into real estate. My business wasn't doing good. We had a consultant that I finally allowed someone to consult me. He said, hey, bro, what you're doing doesn't work. Clearly, you don't know what the hell you're doing, and you're competing against a restaurant next door, which is killing it. Why don't you change your concept to something you know? What do I know? I know how to do pizza. Okay. My brother was shutting down. We brought all of his equipment to my restaurant, revamped it, changed the name, and actually nearly tripled our sales in 45 days.
Whoa.
So the restaurant actually finally turned around.
Yeah.
But 45 days later, it caught on fire. So the reason why we had 2 double-deck pizza ovens, one of those like big old 1960s ovens, I brought a Joe Schmo out of just like someone's friend to do the piping, and one of the pipes had a rust, and it was a rusty pipe and it was gas pipe. So in the middle of service, we used to stack boxes on top of the oven. So there was a gas leak, the boxes caught on fire, and then just the whole thing.
Wow. Shame on you, Joe Schmo. Okay, so then this happens. You become more humbled from this experience. You go through a stint of, I'm assuming, depression, sadness.
Oh, yeah.
All of the things.
That's where the mustache came from.
Okay.
But that's another story.
Okay. So you go through all of the feelings that a normal person would probably endure after coming through something like that. And then you stumbled upon this remarkable experience of being able to profit $42.99. Can you talk about your introduction into Amazon and how that's changed your life?
Yeah, I saw a friend that I went to, me and him took our girlfriends to high school, like Snowball or whatever, that party, that mid-year party is called or whatever. And so I saw him like a few months after my restaurant burned down. And during that time, I started driving for Uber because I had owed the last paycheck to a lot of my employees. I didn't have money to pay them. And so I knew I needed to pay them because they all lived in the same city and they all were like threatening me every day. Like, bro, next time I see you, I'm beating your ass because I need my fucking paycheck. And so I'm like, all right, I got to pay these guys somehow. I started driving for Uber. By the way, I had a suspended license. So I got the Uber under my friend's name and I was driving with a suspended license because I got a DUI. Because I started drinking all the time after the restaurant.
Yeah.
And one day I got a DUI.
Yeah.
So I was driving for Uber under his name. And then Uber, if you're watching this, please don't sue me. This was like 7 years ago. And then I started dishwashing at Hilton hotels. I would go drive for Uber and then go dishwashing or vice versa.
That's very humbling. Those are 2 very, very, very humbling.
You know, the Uber, not so much.
You don't think so?
No, Uber, no.
Well, Uber no, not so no.
Uber was actually really cool. Like,
Okay.
I actually said, when I was driving for Uber, when my Amazon business started catching up, I was like, I'll probably never stop driving for Uber. And then until it was like, all right, I'm making way too much money here. This is crazy, you know?
Okay.
But driving for Uber, people don't realize it's if you're making anything less than whatever 50 grand a year, you need to leave that and then go drive for Uber. And it's not even about the flexibility and the money or whatever. I made a contact list this long. I was the Uber driver that never shut up.
Okay.
Right? I don't know if you could tell. I like to talk a lot, you know? I literally would not shut up until someone would either tell me like, hey bro, I'm just trying to like listen to my music or something just literally tell me to shut the hell up without telling me to shut the hell up. Otherwise, I would know who they are, where they work, what they do for a living, and probably ask for their phone number, you know? And I would like make contacts, you know? I didn't know how I was gonna cash out on that. I just knew like I need to make contacts.
Sure.
And so after I started doing that, I met that friend and was like to me, hey bro, I work from home. I make money. I asked him, I'm like, hey man, how have you been? What are you doing? He's like, I work from home. I'm like, what the fuck does that mean?
Yeah.
He's like, I work from home. I'm like, doing what? He's like, I work online. I'm like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. At the time, I had a Facebook page that I would post like once a year on. I probably had never been on YouTube, never been on social media, never been on anywhere, on the internet.
Wow.
I would literally still like go to Google, print the thing to get directions, you know?
Yeah, map
like not even use like, you know, actual maps.
Wow.
And so I went, and he's like, Google, you know, go to this thing called YouTube. I'm like, cool. So I get on YouTube and I just start, you know, typing things like how to make money online or from home or something like that. And I get exposed to this insane world that I had never known about. And I was just mind-boggled at what I was seeing. Because here I was investing hundreds of thousands of dollars, working hundreds of hours, making zero money, busting my ass. And these kids are like running around, selling online, making all this money. And I'm like, and that's when the ego. I mean, you just like grabbed the knife and like, you know, smashed it inside of my ego.
Yeah.
And I really felt like shit.
Wow.
You know, because I was like, can you imagine if I had taken that 200K and invested in an online business? Holy shit. Wow. That's what I was thinking. And then the whole what if started coming in and, you know, the anxiety and stuff like that. But something about Amazon FBA, I don't know what it was. Something about it just stuck to me.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so what was like the first thing that you decided to sell?
So it was about Christmas of 2015. Again, I had no car. I wasn't driving. I had no license. So what I did is I found this concept called arbitrage.
Okay.
And that's where, and I was doing retail arbitrage. You can do online arbitrage. I was doing retail arbitrage. Retail arbitrage is where you go to like stores and you go to the clearance section like Walmart, TJ Maxx, whatever. And then you buy products there that you can sell them online for a markup.
Okay.
So I learned that you could do that on Amazon. So what I would do is I would go to places like Home Goods, and I would find, and I found, and all we did, me and my girlfriend, would take her mom's car because she had an SUV. We'd literally drive all around San Diego, going around scanning things. People would look at us like we're crazy, you know? And this is 2015. Not a whole lot of people really knew about this.
Yeah.
There wasn't really any online videos about it or any of that. So I would scan things and then try to see if there's a certain markup, and I created my own criteria. Like it needs to make at least $10 extra, it needs to be this weight, this whatever, you know, just from things that I watched, things that I experienced. And then it was Christmas, and I found this doll. I forget what it was called. It was, there were two colors. It used to be made in pink and purple. The pink one used to sell like 3 times more than the purple. So I found out that at Home Goods, I can buy it for like, I think it was like $18 or $19, and I can sell it on Amazon for $42.99. Sometimes $39, sometimes $47, just kind of depends.
Yeah.
The first one I sold was $42.99. And I still remember the first day, I wake up in the morning, the first thing I would do is I would jump on my app, you know, and then check it. I opened the app, and then there was a sale, $42.99. And that to me was like making $100 billion.
Yeah.
Literally. Because to me, up until now, in order for me to make money, I had to go shop for the food. I had to store it, prep for it, cook it, serve it, clean after the customer in order for us to sell a sandwich and a beer for $10. Where now, I just literally, you know, in that $42, I probably made like $7, $8 in profit times a day. And it just literally started that way, right? And so that's when I realized that there is something here. But then I was driving around San Diego going crazy. I would have my sister-in-law who lived in Vegas go around Home Goods and buy all those. And then I say sister-in-law, she was my girlfriend's sister at the time.
Yeah.
You know, and then I realized, okay, there's got to be an easier, more scalable concept. And that's when I came across another concept called private label.
Okay.
which is what I do now and what we teach our students.
Okay, and
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about that.
So that's where you actually find a manufacturer. So for instance, this box here, you go to the actual manufacturer and then it's white labeled, right? So the manufacturer that actually produces this, you find out that using a certain criteria that this product sells on Amazon for X amount of dollars and it sells X amount of units per day, per month, so you can make X amount of profit. You get it from the supplier. Usually we try to buy our products from our suppliers for 25% of our sell price. So if
Okay.
we're going to sell it for 20, we try to buy it for $5, including shipping to Amazon,
Okay.
right? And then from there, you buy it in bulk, so 200, 300 units. You create your own design, your own logo, your own brand. You try to differentiate it. We have a strategy on how to differentiate products. You order a few hundred units, and then your supplier ships directly to Amazon. So all you're doing is online. You're not touching the product. Obviously, you have them send you a sample, but they ship directly to Amazon. Amazon stores,
Wow.
and then you create a listing, all they advertise it. When a customer orders, Amazon ships.
Yeah.
And they also do customer service. So when I found that out, I was like, okay, this is scalable.
Yeah.
I can go all in on this. And now obviously I'm starting with 150K in debt. And this is another thing that I want to tell your audience and everyone watching is, people come to me all the time, I'm broke. I have zero money. I'm a student. I'm like, how much money do you have in the bank? $2,000. I'm like, you are $152,000 richer than I was when I first started.
Wow.
How did I do it? There's a thing called OPM. I know you know about it. But unfortunately, people will go and borrow money to buy a house,
Yep.
which I think is a liability. People think it's an asset. That's another argument for another day. They'll go and borrow money to get a degree that can get them hopefully maybe a job that they can get fired from just like that, but they won't borrow money to start a business, right? And that's the mind-boggling thing to me. Fortunately, although I was raised with a father that said, never borrow money, never partner with people, fortunately, I was a little wiser, and I decided to borrow money. And actually, the first money that I borrowed was from my girlfriend's mom, who now is my mother-in-law.
Yeah.
And this is only 6 months after dating her daughter, right? Now, I'm Middle Eastern.
Yeah.
You don't just come around and start dating my daughter, let alone borrow $5,000 from me,
Yeah.
right? And so...
Was that a culture shock from what you
100%.
are used to, is asking the mom?
Well, I asked the daughter, and the daughter asked
And
the
the
mom.
daughter
Yeah,
asked
yeah,
the
yeah.
mom. Okay.
Yeah, I was like, hey, look, I need $5,000 to start this thing. She's like, I don't have it. I'm
Yeah.
like, do your parents have it? Because I couldn't just go to my mom or dad and ask for money. I mean, I had completely crashed
Yeah.
that bridge,
Right,
so.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to unpack this idea a little bit, because you said Amazon just kind of stuck with you in this show, finding your niche with niche. I sit down and talk to people about how they specifically found their niche, what
Sure.
obstacles and successes did they overcome in order to get to where they are today. What was it about it that you think that you thought, this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing?
I don't know if I knew that that's what I was supposed to be doing. I just knew that I need to do something. I was in a situation, I had big dreams, I had big goals, I had given up on for a little while there. I went into depression, and I thought, okay, this is fantasy world, this is real world, right? I need to kind of be okay with this. And then I got snapped out of it. But honestly, it was a few things for me. It was the first thing, Amazon accounts for over 53% of all online sales. So all the websites in the world, 53% of all online shopping happens on Amazon. So for me, that was a thing. The other thing, I think the stat is I can't remember what it was, but I think it was between 40 to 60% of all active Amazon sellers make $100K or more per year, right? I was like, okay, I can get behind that,
Right.
The fact that I could do it online, that was the biggest thing, because I was tired of retail, especially hospitality.
Yeah.
All my life, I worked in restaurants. My first job in America at 16, I worked at McDonald's. And then I moved to San Diego. I worked at another McDonald's where my mom and I actually worked at. I was in the front, she was in the back cooking.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
And then, and this is actually something that I haven't really talked about very much. I'm not sure why. And then after that, I worked at a Greek restaurant, which until now, when I go to San Diego, I eat there because it's the best Greek restaurant I've ever eaten at. Greek chicken. If you ever go to San Diego, you have to eat there.
Greek
chicken. Yeah, it's really good. And then from there, I rolled into our restaurant. And from there, I rolled into my restaurant. And so it was just all restaurants,
Right.
and I was just
hustle
sick
and
and
bustle.
tired.
You're tired of the hustle and bustle.
Yeah, I was, and I had spent about 7 years in restaurants now, And I was just tired of that environment. It was a toxic environment. I just didn't like it. And I want to do something different. The fact that I could work from home, anywhere in the world, online, I don't have to be anywhere. I don't have a schedule, you know. And also the other thing is I had bad credit. So then I just wasn't sure if, you know, if we should like, if I can get in there or whatever it is. And Amazon, they don't care, right? They don't care about like if you have a misdemeanor, if you have a felony, whatever. You know?
Right.
I've got a couple of felons in our group, in our community, you know, and like people that have spent like 10, 15 years in jail. It's like, hey man, look, no judgments here. I get it. People make mistakes. That could have been me, you know, one left turn, one right turn. I mean, shit, I got arrested for a DUI. There were times where I would get home, wake up in the morning, and be like, how the hell did I drive my car here?
Yeah.
This could have been me crashing into someone and killing them, right? Amazon doesn't discriminate, you know? Doesn't matter what color you are, doesn't matter where you're from, doesn't matter who you are, you can go right in. So to me, that was a plus. I was like, great, you know? And just all these things put together, I was just like, this just makes sense.
Yeah.
And I had tried other things. That's the other thing too. I had tried affiliate marketing. I had tried, I was following a guy who does like penny stock trading. I don't know if you've heard what that is. I had tried doing that. I got it wholesaling. Real estate was like pretty hot now with courses and stuff like that online.
Yeah.
So I tried doing that as well. The course was just a little too complicated. I got overwhelmed. What else? I think crypto, I invested like $600 in there was this thing called BitConnect. I don't know what it was. It was a coin.
Okay.
And then like 6 months later, it turned out to be a scam and I lost my money.
Okay.
You know, so I tried those, you know, a couple of things. But Amazon, it seemed legit, all these things put together, you know, and I went for it.
Yeah, and you have a really interesting philosophy because I talk to a lot of people on the show and they talk about, you know, when you think about finding your niche, essentially the backdrop of that is to find your purpose, find your passion. But your philosophy is a little bit different because you believe in order to find your passion, you have to find the money.
Yeah, I say
you have
fuck
to find
your
the finances first.
Yeah, I say fuck your passion. And here's why. Today, I do my passion. And I'm 100% behind it. That's the thing that drives me. But when you're starting, when I was 150K in debt, and Gary Vee would tell me, find your passion, I was like, go fuck yourself. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I have debt collectors calling me every day. I have threat messages coming into my phone every single day. I need to make my dad and my mom proud, right? I'm 23 years old, 25 at the time. I've just met a girl that I think is pretty special, and I don't want to lose her. We would go out on a date, and I would have like $45 in my pocket, right? I got to make sure that there is enough gas in the car.
Yep.
We got to make sure that we go out, eat, hang out, do something in San Diego, $45. Like, how the hell are you trying to do that, you know? And so I was tired of that. If I sat there trying to seek my passion, dude, I'd be on the streets, you know? So for me, it was, I need to figure something out. I need to get my finances straight. After I was able to do that in 2018 is when I found myself resting on my laurels, is when I found myself kicking up my feet because, you know, I had like a couple $100,000 in the bank. I was like, life is good. I had retired my parents. You know, I had cleared out my debt. I still couldn't apply for a credit card. Actually, I just got a credit card this year.
Wow.
Yeah, almost 7 years later.
Wow.
With a business that does multiple 8 figures a year. I just literally got my first credit card this year, right? And, you know, that's when I was like, all right. And I found myself in a place where I don't want to grow this anymore. I'm not passionate about this anymore. And that's when I went seeking for my passion. And luckily, my passion just happened to be right in front of me. I just needed to look at it. Today, that's all I do. And that's all I'll ever do. Every time I feel that I'm uninspired doing something, I just kick it off. Yeah.
Why do you think, though, why do you have that philosophy that people should worry about getting money before worrying about what they're supposed to be doing in life?
Again, just exactly as what I said, because when you have debt collectors calling you every day, like if you want to truly find your passion, look, unless you picked up a paintbrush when you were like 2 months old and started painting, or you've got a great voice, or you're just an awesome soccer or football player or whatever, that's different, right? And some people even do it not for the passion, they're just good at it, and then they turn out to do something completely different, right?
Yeah.
But unless you have a great skill, which I obviously don't, like you need to go out seeking for it, and you need to really be intentional to find it, right? And you have to come from a place of abundance. You cannot come from a place of scarcity. And again, when you have debt, when people are calling you every day asking for their money, you're not in no place of abundance. You are scared as shit. And you want to like get things done, right? So I wasn't in a place emotionally and mentally, I didn't have the mental capacity to go seeking my passion because I didn't have an obvious sign. So, and I didn't even know what the hell that meant. Like again, I would, when I first went online, one of the loudest people was Grant Cardone, Gary Vee, all these guys. And it was like, Gary Vee's talking about like find your passion, do something you're passionate about. I'm like, dude, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. There's nothing I'm passionate about. Me trying to go find my passion right now, I'm like stressed out all day long. How do I find my passion in that state? You just can't. Again, unless it's very obvious for you, you can't do it, right? And again, I was 25. I had just experienced one of the most tragic things. It's not like I had a job, because it's also different. If you say have a job and you've been in the job stuck for 10 years, but you're like you've made things work out, like it's worked out, Yeah, you can spend another 6 months looking for your passion. But when you just had a massive life-changing experience and you're in like, your back is against the wall, it's like, dude, I got to figure something out. I don't know about the whole passion thing, But there's a line that needs to be drawn in the sand. Once you have made it to the other side, you must find your passion, because if you don't, you will get fucked. You will literally just blow everything off. Because I nearly blew everything. Because I found myself on the beach in San Diego, again, drunk at a bar again, when I wasn't supposed to be driving. Well, luckily I wasn't driving. I had a friend that was driving me. But I had made it, in my sense, at that time.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the first time I'm making like, I don't know, maybe like 20 grand a month in profits. Holy shit.
Yeah.
This kind of money's even real? Like, I didn't even know something like that existed.
Yeah.
Right? I could literally walk in anywhere, get anything I wanted at any time, right? Now, I couldn't walk in and to Gulfstream and get a private jet, but hey, who cares, right? But I was doing a lot better than the average person that was, around me, and a lot better, right? And so that's when I realized that, okay, I need to, like, what is this? I don't see myself doing this for the rest of my life. I need to find something where I could see myself and plan 20 years from now.
Okay, so you believe that people cannot really find their passion until they get on the other side of financial freedom.
I do believe so, yeah. You have to come from a place of abundance, and you can't come from a place of scarcity.
That's good. I want to talk to you a little bit, because I think this is an extremely important part to success, and possibly to your success, but the mental shifts that you had to do in order to become who you are today. Because I've even seen like some of the pictures that you post and videos, you almost look like a different person. Like you almost are new.
Okay.
And so can you talk about the work that you had to do, or the work that others imparted into you in order for you to become mentally different and have the mental capacity to handle the level of success?
So there's a couple of things. The first thing is this whole idea of think big. I know it's very cliche, it's very simple, but it's very important for you to surround yourself with the right people. So this is 2020 now. In 2018, late 2018, I was hanging out with my wife's cousin, who I actually had a conversation with last night. And he asked me this question, and now I ask almost everybody that I meet this question. And actually, I was meaning to ask her this earlier before we started. Where do you see yourself in the next 35 years? He asked me that question, and it changed my life. And because I know the impact that it made on me, I now ask it to every person. And 90% of people that I ask them, they have no freaking clue. Oh, I just don't plan that far. I just don't think like that. Oh, I don't know. Honestly, I'm not sure. Well, I know in 6 months. But when you think that far ahead, is when it makes that shift in your mind, right? So for me, when I thought of 3 to 5 years, I stared at him in the face. I was like, dude, I have no idea. He's like, wait, I thought you were like really happy with what you're doing. I'm like, I am. But I don't see myself doing this continuously, growing it for the next 35 years. Because again, I was rested. I was doing okay.
Yeah.
Everyone around me, to them, I was like God. I had made it,
Yeah.
My mom was starting to feel pretty proud of me now. My dad was definitely proud of me. And that's when I started BJK University, which is our company right now, which is my main focus, which is teaching people how to, we're an education company. We teach people how to start online businesses. Currently, we're focused on Amazon, but the plan is to go into other horizontals such as, trading or crypto or whatever else. But we're a university where people come to us to acquire a skill they can turn into income within 90 days or less. And then the plan is also to launch other programs where they can tackle kind of like seminars.
Sorry.
It's all good?
That was my timer.
Good?
You got 10 minutes.
Okay. Okay.
Holy shit, we've been on for almost an hour? God damn, I talk a lot. Okay. And then so, the plan is to also kind of add other aspects to their lives or I guess approach their other life aspects, which is like their emotional life, their relationships, their mindset, all that stuff, because I know that's where I made the biggest the biggest development and what drove me to achieve the financial success, right? So when I realized that, I understood that, in order for me to succeed, I needed to work on my mindset. But it all first starts to what you're aware of, what you're exposed to, right? And awareness comes from your surrounding. So in 2020, our business was stagnant. We were at the same level for the whole year, and I was just comfortable. So what I did is I removed myself from that environment, and I moved from San Diego to Miami, place where I knew nobody, place where I had never been. And it was a completely new environment for me, and it put me out of my comfort zone. So it's continually challenging myself, continually investing in education because it's awareness. People, anyone watching, they're probably right here. And obviously this is different for every person. But in order for you to go from here to here, there's only one thing that's holding you, and that's level of awareness, right? And the only way you can gain that level of awareness is exposure. Exposing yourself to books, exposing yourself to podcasts like this one, exposing yourself to coaches. This year alone, we've invested nearly $600,000 in coaching, mastermind, and consulting. Wow. Because I know how much of a return it's brought into my life and how much it can bring into my life. So it's continuously investing. People hear me say that and they're like, dude, but I don't have $600K to invest. I'm like, yeah, my first course was $500, right? You can't compare your chapter 1 to somebody else's chapter 20. Sure. People look at Elon Musk and say, well, he's running 7 companies. Yeah, but he didn't start running 7 companies, right? He did that when he was worth like $200, $300 million. And so it's about continuously pushing yourself, continuously putting yourself in new environments, and continuously exposing yourself to new information. And when you do that, you start gaining new perspectives. And so that was the very first thing. And then it went more tactical, right? So that was kind of like overall motivation. Okay. And even earlier than that was Rocky Balboa, honestly. Until now, I have a little metal thing that I have on my whiteboard. It's a quote by him. So, Rocky Balboa, the movie, Sylvester Stallone, he's my favorite actor. And he's got a quote. He says, it's not about how hard you hit, it's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done, right? So it was just all those combined together and then going more tactical, like, okay, Amazon FBA, take a course. I want to learn about PPC, hiring a coach that teaches me about PPC. And again, it also came because I had the experience of doing it all by myself, thinking I know it all. I mean, before I started my restaurant business, I watched reality TV show Bar Rescue by John Taffer for 6 months, taking notes, thinking now I'm an expert at running a restaurant from watching a reality show, right? And so I realized that in order for me to become successful and to keep growing, I need professional help. And so from there, it was more tactical. When I went to growing my consulting business, it was Sam Ovens, became one of his students, and then kind of grew from there. And then now it's people like Dean Graziosi, Dan Locke, Ty Lopez, Gary Vee, all these people, trying to get like one-on-one time with them where I can sit for 1 hour, literally summarize everything in 1 hour and then implement in my business. We need to build a finance department. Okay, who's the best, fractional CFO? Let's go hire him, bring him, teach us. We need to bring this thing. Who's the best at this? Go bring them, hire them to teach us, and then so on.
Wow. Okay, but as we get ready to close, best piece of advice you can give to somebody who might be stuck in a rut and want to see themselves where you are.
So this is going to contradict what I said earlier, but it's not. So hear me out. if you're wanting to start a business, or if you want to, and it's not even a business, you don't need to start your own thing for you to make it in life. You can work for someone else. I was very close to working for someone else, and I would have done very well as well. But it's very important for you to start with your why, right? And this is not your passion. It's completely different. You need to be clear on your why. And my why for me when I was starting out it was very strong. I need to retire my parents. I need to gain the respect of my dad back. I need to clear the $150,000 in debt. And I need to be able to marry the love of my life. And to me, that was strong enough to wake me up every single day, regardless what life was throwing at me. I was still willing, even if I did not feel good, I was still willing to go through walls and make it on the other side because my why was big enough. Again, that's not passion. This has nothing to do with passion. This is just being clear on your why. Because turbulence will happen, because bad things will happen. Life is not perfect. Life is a bitch. And trust me, it will test you in every single way you want it to do it. Right? So you got to be clear on your why before you start anything. Otherwise, no point in even starting.
That's good. I know one of your whys right now, too, is to impact 1 million lives.
Yes.
How close are you to that goal?
We're nowhere near, but the plan is by 2026, we want to be there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there it is. In 2026, I'm going to call you.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
see.
I want you to hold me accountable.
Sure. Rashard, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate
for
it.
sitting and talking with me. If people want to learn about the university and how to be a part of what you're doing, how can they do that?
So just go to Instagram, Bashar Katou on Instagram, and you can watch all about the content that we post. You can watch about everything that we do. You can check out some of our student case studies and really learn just a little bit more about what we do and who I am and what the university is about.
There it is. All right. Thanks, y'all. Peace.